water from the Thames River onto London City. But the Soho jail had no water supply. They were drinking from a well inside the jail. Okay? So, this thinking man who failed as a surgeon, failed as an anesthesiologist, but he was still a thinker. I would rate him as the best scientist, who came up with the hypothesis that cholera is transmitted by water. Okay? Since the water for London comes from the Broad Street pump, cholera must have come from Broad Street pump water. Since this Soho Square people drink only their well water, they are safe. So he went to the London Corporation and told them, you must stop this Broad Street pump. If you go to Municipal Corporation in Madras and tell them that Red Hill water supply must be stopped, what will they tell you? Mad. So, you know, people will tomorrow kill them if there is no water to drink. So they said he is mad, and a case was made against him to be insane, and he was to be admitted to the mental hospital the following day. But do you know what he did? These thinkers do this. At night, he got some pickaxe, some hammer, and so many tools, went to the Broad Street pump, broke it open. He completely broke it open. So there was no water coming from the Broad Street pump. And within 1 week, cholera subsided in London because everybody was forced to drink their well water, whatever little well water. So, to tell you, the greatest discovery in science was made by John Snow, who never did any research but observed what happened. This was 100 years before cholera vibrio was ever seen under the microscope. So you don't have to do reductionist science to say cholera is caused by cholera vibrio. So what? Cholera is transmitted by water. That is more important, isn't it? So water must be having the poison, whatever is the poison, whether it is vibrio or whether it is anything. So John Snow's observational research you and I can do in life. Digoxin. Very interesting. William Withering was another family physician in London. And lot of people, old age people, had heart failure. They were having so much of edema, their tummy was full of water, they couldn't walk, they were gasping for breath. One day one of his old patients came and told me, Mr. Withering, I have a treatment for this. He said, what? I have a plant in my garden which I call as the, Digitalis lanata, and I give that plant the juice of that to these people, and their edema disappears, they breathe well. He said, is it? Get me the plant. See, he would have said, you are an idiot, you are a housewife, what do you know? And I am a doctor, I have studied MBBS in London University and blah blah. No. He said, get the plant. He tried it. And this was 350 years ago. And from that plant today we have got a drug called digoxin. Now this is a very good drug. But would you believe, 350 years of research, we don't know what digoxin does and how digoxin kills, if it kills, and why the digoxin therapeutic and toxic dose is so narrow. We have now a group of workers working in the last 100 years called DIG Investigation Group. Digoxin Investigation Group. Each 10 years it comes up with the opposite conclusion. Once they said every heart failure must be given digoxin. Next time they said no, only heart failures with sinus rhythm should not be given digoxin. Heart failure with arrhythmias only must be given digoxin. This continues, which I am trying to tell you that reductionist science in 100 years did not progress further than the observational science did in 2 days. William Withering changed the fate of heart failure patients with the decoction of Digitalis lanata in 1 day. With our new science, for now 350 years, we don't know. Now quinine, I think I told you last time. A beautiful tree in Peru, bark, juice, decoction, malaria gone. Now quinine even today is the best drug against malaria. But even today we don't know how quinine kills a lot of people because of its cardiac toxicity. Very interesting, isn't it? Now same thing with aspirin. Around the same time in the 15th century, Europe had the willow bark, fever went, malaria didn't go, people died still. And this was acetyl salicylic acid, aspirin. And we have been giving aspirin left, right and center to everybody. And I have been writing, don't take a medicine, even if it is aspirin, if you don't have a disease. And now, the latest aspirin audit says, taking 50 milligrams of aspirin to prevent a heart attack has killed more people of a stroke. Can you believe that? So our research is nothing. We have had aspirin for again 315 years and we don't know what dose aspirin for what. Penicillin. Penicillin came with a bang and everybody said everything gone. Today we are drowned in penicillin resistant organisms which are threatening to kill you, me and everybody. MRSA, VRSA, you name it. There are 500 molecules of antibiotics and there are germs which say Tata to all of them and thrive very well. They are called super bugs. And the treatment today is go back to nature. Have you seen your buffalo in the village? Buffalo has a large scar. What does it do? Nothing. Lick. I mean, it can't lick on the back. Flies come and sit on it. And flies leave their larvae there. The maggots. So beautiful healing. Now if you go to England and meet with a car accident, they will dress the wound, set your fracture, give you a packet of those maggots cultured in the laboratory and then say go home, pack it with the maggot and your wound and the bone will heal in 1 week. They don't give you antibiotics. The antibiotics will kill you with gangrene. Maggots, the third day, you are fine. See, nature. Nature makes, just as the Peruvians in the 15th century said, where God gives disease, He gives the treatment. When God gives a wound, He gives the maggot. Fascinating, isn't it? Maggot is the latest treatment. Vaccination. Started with the Indian vaccination for smallpox. For thousands of years, India had a vaccination system which was practiced by the 5 universities. And this was studied by a British scholar in the 18th century. His name is T.Z. Holwell, H-O-L-W-E-L-L. He wrote, I quote, vaccination in India, which has existed for, quote unquote, times out of mind, has saved 90% from death in smallpox. Unvaccinated population, 90% perished with smallpox. I observed this in the Bengal for 20 years with prospective observations of thousands of people. And President and members, please recommend to the King that this Indian vaccination should be made compulsory for the whole population. What do you read in your textbook? Edward Jenner did vaccination. Bullshit. Edward Jenner tried cowpox. And today, genetically, cowpox is not smallpox at all, and there is no cross resistance from cowpox to smallpox. So it's the Indian vaccination system which did it. Observational research. Now I want you to be good observers and good researchers. Next slide. Prerequisites of a good researcher. I want to make each one of you a good researcher. I want you to be Francis Bacon going into research. What is needed? A. Honesty, curiosity, perseverance. Research many times brings you sorrow, but don't leave it there. There's a ray of hope. Keen observation power. Everything you notice when you are doing research, note it down. You may think it's not necessary, it's not in my protocol. No, note it down. It may have some relevance. Humility. Of course, this is the virtue of every human being. Good knowledge of basic sciences. You read up a little about physics, chemistry, and all. And the thirst for learning. Just as you have thirst for eating, thirst for drinking, you must have thirst for learning. Next slide, please.